Hey, Joe. I think you might be on mute. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah, I've got you now, mate. Yeah. How you doing? You all right?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good, mate. How's lockdown treating you over there in Sydney, or are you starting to come out of it?
Oh, look, we're coming out of it.
Yeah.
Things are slowly returning to some kind of normality. I've actually got a lunch tomorrow with 9 mates for the
Right.
first time since it happened. So people are starting to get back. We're 10 people per restaurant. I think on the 1st of June we go to 50.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think we're moving towards that. We're moving towards a 10 people mark around about the 15th of June, somewhere around there, hopefully, so we can start to get back some sort of normality.
Whereabouts are you now? In Liverpool?
Just in Liverpool, just across the water. So on the posh side, where all the posh people live on the Wirral, yet. So it's not too bad.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. So, thanks for speaking to me, Joe. Really, really appreciate it. Now, I came across you probably about 8 years ago, and at the time, quite incidentally, I was a truck driver. I was massively overweight, and one of my mates said to me, he goes, "Have you seen this film?" He said, "It's about," and he said, "It's about a truck driver who drinks juice." He goes and loses loads of weight and gets cured. And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen it." So I sort of went away, and then a few days later, I was off work, and by the magic of Google, I actually Googled that phrase, truck driver, juice, 60 days, and straight up came fat, sick, and nearly dead. And now I sat down, I watched that film, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, I watched that film, and by 12 o'clock that day, I'd been out and bought myself a juicer. and it really did change my life. And yeah, I went from being sort of quite overweight at the time with no energy to within like a week or so feeling completely different. So I think just to sort of go back to your story and how you sort of, how that film came about will be a good place to start, really.
Yeah, no worries. Wherever you want to,
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go and how you want to do it, I'm in your hands. How much time do you want? What's your
probably about 45 minutes or so. Yeah.
No problem.
Cool. Okay, yeah. So tell us about Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead and where that came from and how it came about.
So Steve, basically, well, the movie came about because I had decided to go on a journey to change my life. And so if you're asking specifically where the film idea came from, it was after I'd made this decision to really change what I had been doing.
Yeah.
And then people said to me, "Hey, you should throw a camera on yourself and go out and achieve that." And then I didn't think that the idea of making a movie was, even plausible or possible, but that's where the movie came from. Now, if you specifically want to know why I did the change, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to that because you were suffering with a condition at the time, as well as sort of having that sort of middle-aged, sort of being overweight and probably lack of energy like the rest of us. You were suffering with a particular condition, is it urticaria, was it?
Yeah, urticaria, chronic urticaria angioedema.
Yeah.
So I think the way to best explain this for people who haven't seen the movie was that I was pretty much like just a normal guy, just your run-of-the-mill normal bloke. I basically lived on a diet when I was at home with my folks, younger, pretty balanced, healthy diet, mum's cooking, and it was all good. I left home at 18, and because I had the freedom, and I started earning a buck, I started, really eating a lot of takeaway food, all the nationalities of the world, and a lot of processed burgers and fries and deep fried chicken and you name it. And on top of that, there was just a lot of Coca-Cola, Fanta, Sprite, a lot of sugary drinks. And then on weekends, a lot of alcohol, partying with my mates and friends and so on, as you do when you're a young person. Yeah. And then essentially, I didn't grow out of the habit of the fast food. I grew out of the habit of the beer and all that. I wasn't a big drinker, but I'd binge drink. But it was more the fast food and the sugary foods, like the foods like, Lamingtons over here in Australia were my favorite, donuts and, anything, cake, ice cream, all that sort of stuff. And it really became like a best friend, like a security blanket, like the idea of sugar high. When there's a stress, I'd go to sugar. And of course, being a trader and being in the world of financial markets, there was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of sugar. And, I was pretty much an athlete. I played rugby. I I used to jog a lot and I go to the gym. So I was pretty good up until, my mid-20s. And then I started my own company when I was 28. And then, of course, for the next 3 or 4 years, it was pizza for lunch and, take out for dinner every day and late nights and a lot of stress. And the exercise went out the window. And I broke at 32. I use the word broke because that's when I got sick and I needed to go to a doctor and get meds to sort of survive every day and every night. I took these meds. And normally you take meds and you think it's like, for about 6 days, 2 weeks. But the doc said you're going to be on them for life. And I looked at him and I couldn't believe it. But that was when I was 32. And 8 years later at 40, I'm still taking them. It sort of took me that 8-year period where I deteriorated in my health in many other areas like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetic, and weight loss, weight gain, and all sorts of things had occurred in my life, but I hadn't changed anything about my diet. So I got to this moment of 40, and I sort of look back, and I just realized that for 8 years, I've really done nothing about this, and I've kept procrastinating, and I've had my priorities completely out of whack. So in the movie, we show a little bit of that and a little bit of that philosophy. And then really what comes along is this idea that 70% of all disease is caused by lifestyle choices, which means 30% effectively, is essentially bad luck. And so I wanted to find out about my disease. Was it just bad luck, or was it because of me? And so I decided that I needed to come up with a strategy, a plan, a way that I could discover if I was actually, in fact, one of those people that was just plain unlucky. It was just no matter what I did in my life, I would have had this disease, right, Steve? So I just would have been sick, and that's it. Or, was I a moron? And had I done a lifestyle choice, be it smoking or eating or drinking or lack of sleep or no friends or not managing stress, these big 6 lifestyle choices, which are causing 70% of the chronic disease in society today. Was I doing that? Or were they a contributor? And so when you've been doing something for 20 years, leading a lifestyle for 20 years, you kind of think, I wonder whether or not, doing a week of something is gonna help that, right? It's like, is it gonna be a week, or do you need a month? And I sort of thought 20 years or something, you really need to do 2 years of real sort of pain. You've got to do something to reverse that. It's not going to come quick. So I decided that I would live on plants for 2 years to see if I could reverse it. And I thought I'd start the journey off on these 2 years of plants by drinking 60 days of juice. So the juice wasn't like this super cure thing. The juice was just the beginning of the journey. And then I did the juice, and then I did 3 months of eating the plants. I didn't need to do another 22 months. I only needed to do 3 months of eating the plants because I was off all medication after 5 months. So I didn't need 2 years. Had I known at the beginning it'd be 5 months, I would have done it, when I was 33. But I didn't know that. And so the movie captures just basically the juicing and then the eating for 3 months part. And then I get a phone call from one of the people I met on the road, who's the truck driver that you referred to earlier. And that's when the movie takes a turn, and I reopened the cameras, got the crew back out on the road, and we basically threw the first movie out, which was just my journey, and then crunched my journey to the first half of the movie that actually went to air. And then we followed the truck driver and followed others who, it's kind of a bit like a Forrest Gump movie. I started running across America and people started following, and so we followed the followers.
So what brought you to the realization that maybe going towards a plant-based diet for a certain amount of time might actually help you? Was there somebody who sort of spoke to you and gave you that idea, or did it just seem obvious to you?
It just seemed obvious. I mean, it was just the logical. It was basically logic. See, Steve, I reckon that a lot of us know, we kind of know inside the answer to the big questions in our life. All the things that you really ponder and you're not sure about. I have a sort of innate feeling that all of us know the answer. And if we don't know it, we can seek people out who can help bring the answer to the surface. It's deep down inside our core. And we know what's right. We know what's wrong. We know what's working. We know what's not working. And so to me, I sort of, this idea of changing what I was going to eat, this was my last, bastion of freedom, of, my own choice of eating what I want and not having to bow to changing, what I love doing. So I kind of had that gut feel that was it. I didn't know for sure, but I kind of felt that I turned my back on Mother Nature, and if I could turn towards her, we would wait and see, whether or not that would be the case. I mean, like I mentioned before, you've got those 6 things that the data had shown, those six choices that we make. Smoking, yes, I smoked. Drinking, yes, I drank too much. Not only alcohol, but also sugary drinks. Eating, I didn't have enough plant food in my life. It was mostly processed and animal products. Was I getting enough sleep? No. Stress, lots of it. The only thing I was doing well at was having a lot of family and friends and good connection. So, when you're failing 5 out of 6, mate, you can't do them all at once. But I kind of went to the one that I felt resonated the most with me, that I really needed to put into place. And what I have learned since is that if you fix that one, it's funny how the other ones can all fall into line pretty easy. I think it's a little bit more difficult to fix the sleep one if you're eating crap.
Yeah, totally.
I think you've got to really address this fuel and information and nutrition that we are bringing into the body to kick it, allow it to sort of kick over and survive. If you think about the 3 things you've got to put into your body, you've got to put in air, you've got to put in water, and you've got to put in food. Okay. And if you think about how long can you last without air, 7 or 8 minutes for some people they can get to. Probably you and I, 3-4 minutes, we'd be in trouble, So when you think about that, that's a pretty short time before you're dead, 3 or 4 minutes, 7 minutes of no air. You talk about water, how long can you go without any water? Well, it depends on the conditions, but generally about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks without water, you're in serious trouble. If you're in the Sahara, it might be 2 or 3 days, but it just depends on the conditions. But if you're talking about no food, a lot of people think it's like a couple of weeks and you'll die without food, but that's not the case. You can go a long time without food. Yeah. In fact, do yourself a favor, anyone out there listening to the show, Google hunger strikers and see how long it takes for hunger strikers to die. It's like 270 days. Yeah. It's a long time. You are carrying around, you and I and everyone listening are carrying around a lot of calories on our body, be it in our fat, be it in our muscle. And of course, what actually eventually kills us is the calories in our organs, because it's the self-digestion of organs that actually kills you. So, when you think about it in those terms and you look at, just how putting those things into your body keeps you alive, I felt, well, what am I putting in? And what if I didn't put something in for a period of time? How long could I go? And that's kind of how I ended up, not only with the plants, but with the juice.
So for 8 years, you suffered with this illness that the doctors had told you, and they stuck that word chronic in front of it, which really means, look, we're not going to cure it. You just have some drugs for the rest of your life. So at no point did any of the doctors ever say to you, do you think you might want to change your diet here, or did you, any sort of lifestyle change, or did you just keep throwing drugs at you?
So to be honest, one doctor, generally the answer was no. But one doctor talked about checking for allergies. Yeah. So I did a thing called a food elimination diet from the University of New South Wales. And I was a Professor Lobley. And I did it under his supervision. Now, what they did is they on my forearm, they stamped about 8 or 9 squares like a hopscotch thing. And then they pinpricked me with different things like cat, like fur, like all these things, and they see whether the skin reacts. So that's the first way they test for allergies. And then the next one is a food elimination, where you can't have salicylates, amines, or glutamites, which are the three chemicals in all food. Yeah. For example, a pear is one of the only fruits that doesn't have any of those 3. Okay. So I lived on pears, but it was only for a week. It wasn't a long time. So I did this elimination diet, and because it was only a week, I didn't see the effects in the change. So I thought at that point, well, it's not food because of this. And it wasn't until later when I got to 40 that I realized that, well, a week's not enough. I need to maybe do 2 years. I should have done that elimination diet for 2 years, not for a week.
Yeah. So juice and vegetables, say, until I watched your film, I would never even have thought of juice and vegetables. I thought orange juice, apple juice, whatever you like. And it never even sort of occurred to me to start to do that. And obviously in the film, you're famous for the Joe's Mean Green Juice, which I think after watching your film, I lived on for about a month. And like I say, did change my life as regards that. So where did the idea of actually juicing the vegetables, and what was the reason behind juicing them rather than just eating lots and lots of vegetables?
So once I realized that I needed to turn towards plants for the healing part, that was going to deal with the sick part of me. I wanted to address the fat part of me. And the fat part of me, when I looked into it, I realized that I was storing all this energy up for lean times.
Yeah.
So that essentially, anyone out there carrying more weight than they should is essentially they got to give praise to their body, because their body is trying to protect them, trying to say, hey, you know what? When a famine hits Liverpool or Sydney or Tokyo or Los Angeles, we've got you covered. We're going to look after you because we've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner all over our body. So once the penny dropped with me that fat was not an enemy, but it was a storage support mechanism that was on my body for these lean times, I realized that if I kept depositing into the bank account, all right, by having more calories than were required, that over time, this extra depositing that I've got to carry around all my prized possessions of all this fat, it's going to make it more inefficient for my system, my organs to operate. And it's going to cause stress on things like the pancreas when it's producing insulin. Therefore, I'm at higher risk of a diabetic type 2 or diabetes type 2 and become a diabetic.
Yeah.
So, and there are lots of other risks associated. It's not a given. Like some people can carry 2 stone extra on their body and completely healthy. Yeah. And some people can be at a normal weight and get cancer and die. So it's not like a death sentence. You are just increasing risks that you wouldn't necessarily have to take. And so the idea of a famine was attractive to me, but I'd already agreed on eating plants to try and heal myself because I needed their valuable information and nutrients. So I compromised for this first 60 days by just extracting the water that's trapped in the plants, which is juice, and consuming just that water / juice, which is, it's really the rain or irrigation, however the plant was watered, it's fallen into the soil and it's been sucked up by the roots into the cucumber, say. And when you break open a cucumber and you juice it or you eat it and you taste that moisture in your mouth, it's in that liquid, it's in the water is where the micronutrients are. They're not in the skin of the cucumber. That's Mother Nature's delivery or packaging system to get the nutrients to our body. So when you juice, you're kind of shortcutting digestion in a way. Blending is shortcutting the chewing, but juicing is shortcutting the digestion. And so what's really important to understand is that you can eat plants or you can drink water. And if they're your 2 extremes, when you make a smoothie in the morning and you use a bullet or a blender, that's much closer to the eating part because all you're doing is outsourcing the chewing to a machine. But when it hits your stomach's got to break it down. And all the guys down there are saying is, geez, Joe, you chewed it really well today. Thanks. But they've still got to do the breakdown. But the juicing is much closer to the water. And so when you drink juice, there isn't much digestion at all. It's like straight into the system. You know, I quite often use the analogy. I think a lot of people listening to your podcast are vets, or they've been in the world of high active training in their life, right?
Yeah.
And you know, have you ever been a runner?
I'm a runner now. Yeah. I run ultras and things like that. Yeah.
So let's say you're at have you ever, what's the longest you've run?
46 miles. Yeah.
Okay, let's just say at mile 10.
Yeah.
I come out with a couple of burgers, some chips, and a hot dog. And I'm on the bike and I'm passing this to you. Is it possible for you to eat all that while you're running?
Oh, definitely not, no.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if I came out with a whole bunch of, you know, apples and oranges and pears and carrots and celery and kale, and I gave you that to eat, that'd still be difficult. It'd be very difficult to eat all of that while you're running, okay?
Yeah.
However, if I came out with water at the 10-mile mark and gave you water, could you drink the water while you're running?
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So why can you drink the water, but you can't eat the burgers and you can't eat the celery and you can't eat the apple? Why is it that you're not able to digest that food? And the answer is because the blood that is generally used for digestion, because we need to bring a lot of blood to our core when we eat. The blood is in your legs, it's in your calves, it's in your thighs, it's in your back muscles, it's propelling you. You have diverted blood flow for the activities of these muscles. So you are shut down to digestion, okay? But water, no problem. So juice is something that you could easily have at the 10-mile mark or the 15-mile mark or the 20-mile mark because you are not doing the digestion. So this is a very simple way that I use to explain to people, just lay people, the big difference. Now, if I gave you a smoothie that had been blended up with avocado, kale, you could still drink it easy enough, but it would be sitting in your stomach and it would make you feel crook while you're running because you wouldn't be able to digest it. You have to slow down, bring the blood in and digest, or you'd probably bring it up. So this is where juicing is much more like water, and therefore I was tricking my body with this 60 days to be having it pretend or think it's on a famine. So that was the idea of how that came in.
So just to give people an idea, the mean green juice, say I know what's in it, but obviously just tell us what's actually in that juice as you have to take that in the one serving, which is probably going to be about a little liquid.
So in a normal serving, you'd probably put a whole big cucumber, you put 3 or 4 sticks of celery, you put 2 or 3 big leaves of kale or spinach if you haven't got kale. You put a lemon. You might put an apple or 2, depending on your sweetness profile. And you put some ginger in, maybe a little bit of ginger. So 6 ingredients. One of them is a fruit, and the other 5 are a veggie base. If you want to call lemon, it's a fruit really, but you know, it's not really a sweet fruit; it's more sour. So that's effectively the mean green. Now I would have 2 or 3 of those each day on a long-term reboot, which is what I call it. I call it like a juice fast. I call it a reboot. And I would also incorporate red juice, orange juice, not oranges from orange, but color orange. That could be carrots or bell peppers, capsicum, if you like to call them, sweet potato. And then I put purple juice in there. And so it's green, it's red, it's yellow, it's purple, and it's orange. And I want to make sure we get all of those 5 different colors into the diet because it's critical to have as much different sort of rainbow in your diet as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, after my initial sort of 30 days that I actually did after watching the film, I tend to now do a reboot, whether sometimes that can be 3 days, sometimes it's a week, depends how I feel, what I need to do really. Is that something that you think that people generally should be doing? And what are the benefits of that, doing that sort of regular reboot? How often should you do it?
Yeah, so I think that it's horses for courses, okay? It's very different. Now, we have to sort of look at if anyone's out there and they've got 2-3 stone to lose, then a reboot is a really good option, like a 15-day, 20-day, 30-day sort of plan could be really beneficial to shifting the mindset, getting activity going, setting you on a path to success. It's not going to be the success. It's not like some magic bullet. You just do 30 days of juicing and then go back to what you did and you're going to look like Superman. No, but it'll give you this kickstart. It's this circuit breaker that gets the inflammation down in your joints so you can start moving and you have more energy and you sleep better and you look better and you feel more motivated. So you can carry your breaking of the fast where you say, right, I'm not going to have those 10 things which I know are crap for me. I'm going to have these things and I'm going to keep juicing. I'm going to have, like, on Saturday, I'm going to go and have my pizza, but otherwise I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? It puts wind in your sails. Now, if all you want to do is you're in pretty good shape, you're healthy, you're not overweight, you don't have any chronic diseases, but you're feeling a bit flat, then 3 to 5 days is a perfect little window to what I call a sharpener. And you just do a little sharpener and get things going and flowing again. Because the amount of produce you have to consume in a day on a reboot, you got to consume a lot of produce, you know. It could be as much as 30 quid, 50 Australian dollars worth of produce in a day. Now, people say, oh, that's expensive. But you know what? This is your health we're talking about. Yeah. And, you can go out and get a cocktail for like 10 quid, you know? Yeah. So you got to get your priorities and values, and you really got to look at this. But when you sort of break it up into the meals for the day, it might end up being, 7 or 8 quid a meal, which is not too bad. No. But everyone's different, but that's the value that I put on it in terms of how important it is. Now, if you're a woman and you want to go more than 15 days, we really recommend that you put protein powder, mix it in with your juice. Funnily enough, men don't have this problem as much as women, but women can lose their hair from a long-term reboot without putting protein powder in. Okay. So, but people are going 100 days, people are going 80, 90, 60, 70. I mean, you can get right out there in a long-term reboot, and it just changes people's lives. It changes their mindset. So it really is depending. And now some people, they just can't get there. They can't do 1 day of juicing because it's just the mindset. So I say to them, that's okay. What I want to see them do is do 10, 15, 20 days of just eating plants. Yeah. So take away all the animal product, take away all the processed food, and just live on plants. What are those rules? Well, you can have fire, you can have water. Okay. So think about your stove at home. Get a boiling pot of water. You want to put something in there, like corn? Sure. But you can't have butter on it, Yeah. Himalayan sea salt, knock yourself out. Yeah. But you want to steam some veggies? Go for it. You want to blend some pumpkin, make a pumpkin soup, but don't put the cream in. Yeah. You want to make some fresh almond milk with your juicer and nuts and put that in? Go for it. So it's about creating plant-based only menu for 10, 20, 30 days if you can't juice and you can't afford a juicer, or you just don't think you can get there. So this idea of having basically a celebration and a return to nature and like an honoring of oneself and an honoring of Mother Nature, that's the ritual that will bring back a lot of harmony to your life. And it'll enable you to propel forward with a lot of energy and power.
Yeah, and I think it's for me as well, it's starting to recognise what you're putting into your body as fuel rather than developing that almost emotional relationship with it, isn't it? Because when I first went vegetarian, which was about 8 years ago, I was vegetarian, then I was vegan, and I've totally tried to move away from those two labels because I think there's so much rhetoric and there's so much negativity. And if you look on sort of Facebook or you look on Instagram, Twitter, vegetarians are attacking vegans are attacking everybody else. So I think it is really just sort of getting rid of those labels, isn't it? And going, look, this is fuel. I'm sticking them in body. I'm not going to stick diesel in a petrol car.
Yeah, it's interesting you use the word fuel, Steve, because here's what I think. Oh, this is my philosophy. Is that and look, I'm no scientist. I'm no nutritionist. I've learned a lot from some smart people. And I break it down this way. Okay, when it comes to nutrients, there's two types of nutrients. There's macro and there's micro.
Yeah.
When we talk about macro, we're talking about three things: fat, protein, carbohydrate.
Yeah.
When we talk about micro, we haven't got enough time to list the tens of thousands of little micronutrients. So when you go and get a blood test and you see calcium, you see phosphorus, you see anything of that list, iron, all of those things, they're all the micronutrients. Okay, all vitamins, all minerals, all different types of acids, folates, all of that are what we call micronutrients. So our food, and we can only eat three things. We can eat animal product, we can eat processed food, or we can eat plants. Well, guess what? The macro, the fat, the protein, and the carbohydrate, that's in all food. That's in the processed, that's in the animal, and that's in the plant. But the micronutrient stuff, that is 99% found only in the plant. Yes, there is some in animals, but majority of it that we need is in plants. So when I talk about majority, I mean majority of those 10,000, like 99.9% of those 10,000 are in plants. So what we want to do is we want to then now think about this food we're putting in from the plant world differently from fuel. Now, fuel is the macro. So fuel, energy, so that you can go for your run, so that you can go and have a great day's work. So you have a lot of energy to brain power. That's all going to come from the fat, from the protein, and from the carbohydrate. That's where you're going to get your fuel. The micronutrient is going to give you information. It's kind of like this incredible software program that comes in on your hardware, and it sets up a communication link amongst all of your system, your defense system, your nervous system, your cellular system. And this communication that takes place, all of that only occurs when you have the right levels of micronutrients in your body. So you can eat as much processed food as you like. You can have as much French fries, you can have as much carbohydrate, as much fat at McDonald's. You can eat all that food. But over time, you will break because you are starving yourself of the information. And that's really where chronic disease comes from. Like all these autoimmune diseases, they are generally, 70% of them at least, are based on the idea that we are starving our system of the micronutrient value. So, you know, when you look at the UK diet and the American diet and the Australian diet, 1 in 20 calories is coming full of micronutrient value, because that's the 5% is all we eat of plants. 95% is processed and animal. So is it any wonder we've got such problems with our health and people on meds and people dying very young? And when you get a disease like COVID-19 coming through, the weak, the people with illnesses are the ones who are, because their systems aren't strong enough to handle the infection. So this really does put a lot of responsibility and onus on us as individuals. And, you know, I talk about this distance from here to here. This is the last 2 feet of freedom. You know, no one can tell you. I mean, I can hang up from the call tonight. It's dark here in Sydney. It's it's an evening. It's cold outside. I could ring up and order 20 pizzas here, mate, if I wanted to. I could order 100 pizzas if I wanted to pay for it. There's no police outside. There's no law in society that's stopping me from, you know, munching down 100 pizzas. I mean, I don't know how I could fit them in, but, you know, there's no law. But I can't get in my car and drive more than X kilometers an hour. I've got to pay a license to be a driver. I've got to register my car. I've got to pay taxes. I mean, there's all these laws. But there's no law about here to here, right? And that's a very dangerous place to be, between your hand and your mouth, Steve. No one wants to go there, right? We all hate the food police. So this idea that the ball is in our park, I really, really believe that, you know, ball's in your court, so to speak. And so nobody is going to come down and wave their magic wand and make you healthy. You know, you have to do it yourself. And So what my mission is to try and provide inspiration. I don't like telling people what to do because no one likes being told what to do. I just do it, and if people want to follow and they're interested, and you hit me up and say, Joe, let's have a yarn, I do it. I talk about it because I try to put it into layman's terms about why we need to do it. I don't want to scare people, but I just call it as it is.
I think I'm not going to spoil the films too much because I think I'm going to put a few links into the notes so people can go and look at them. But when we went from sort of Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 1 into number 2, and was it Pete the truck driver? Was that his name? Was it, or was it Phil? Phil. Okay, so Phil, and obviously there was something that happened in between those two films, and I think what you said when we went, I think the last time I saw you was at the premiere of Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2 in Liverpool.
At the Brink, right?
At the Brink, and then we went to the cinema, didn't we? I think there was a thing at the cinema later on. Yeah, but I think one of the things that we said there was one of the things you realised it was missing from the first film to the second film was the element of community that I think Phil really sort of suffered with between those two films.
Yes. Yeah, community is really critical. I mean, it's one of those things that we talked about when you talk about lifestyle choices, about being cut off.
Yeah.
If you think about people who live on their own, there's no one to be accountable to. You can eat what you like, you can do what you like. You're hiding.
Yeah.
It's very much a situation when you don't have accountability. When you're lonely, when you feel sorry for yourself, when I know what it's like. When I got stressed, sugar's the only thing that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I understand you sort of go for your mate, and your mate's sugar, or your mate's alcohol, or your mate is, the chips or crisps or whatever your crutch is. So I understand this, and to be honest, I think that a lot of this comes down not necessarily to the food. I mean, that's the end result. Going for the food is the end result, but it all begins with this self-perception and this conversation with self and self-love and self-honoring and respect. And if you don't have good friends and you're not in a tight community where you're getting reinforcement from supporters, then it's very easy to not look at yourself in a positive light. And so, I can understand that, and it's a big problem in society. So, those people that are lonely, that may be watching this, that are on their own, I think it's really important they reach out. If they can't find their own friends, go to either my community at the Joe Cross community on Facebook, or there's many other people out there like me that have their own communities, because you're going to find like-minded people in there, and you're going to put your story up. And as long as you're honest and truthful, you'll get a lot of support in those sort of groups. So it's one of the positives. There's many negatives of social media. But this is one of those positives, that you can seek out like-minded people that are there to support you.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping coming through this COVID-19 crisis that a lot of people use this as a real opportunity now to sort of change their health as well, because we've got this clap for the carers thing in the UK at the minute. At 8:00 on a Thursday night, everybody comes out and claps for the health service. And one of the mantras has been that protect the NHS by staying in your house and not going out and not spreading the disease. And I think one of the things I've put out a lot on my blogs is that, look, we can protect our health service all the time by taking a bit of personal responsibility for ourselves, because obesity is showing up as one of the major factors that is going to make you deteriorate. And I don't think it's actually that simple, because obviously if you're obese, you're more prone to sort of chronic disease, aren't you, as well? So I'm hoping that I think people like you and through the blogs and the community that I'm in, that we can sort of get that message out there now, that start to look after yourself, start to look after your own body, take some personal responsibility for that. And we can look after our support services in our own countries, on a much more prolonged basis.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, one of the things I get asked a lot about is, because I talk to a lot of people who are obese. I mean, I have a very good rapport, and I speak to that. And 9 out of 10, they don't want to be like that. It's not like they're sitting back lazy. They really have tried a lot of things. Yeah. And one of the things that like if I ask you, what's the problem with being obese? Like if you ask people and go and ask doctors, what is the issue with being obese? what's the problem? You're going to get a response that basically talks about risks, okay? Well, if I magically put 7 stone on your body right now of extra fat, just loaded it onto your under your skin, right? You wouldn't have the same risks as if you put it there yourself. Okay. Now just think about that. The point being is that actually the problem of being obese is not really the problem. It's what you did to get there. It's the lifestyle you led for the years to get there. Because in order for all that excess fat, you're laying down your arteries with plaque to deliver it to all the parts of the body. So that's the problem. That's where you get that extra risk. So actually having the fat on you, not the problem. It's actually what you did to get the fat on you. Yeah. I think that's really important to understand, because once you understand that, then as soon as you change your diet, as soon as you switch it, within days, you are flooding your system with micronutrient value. You are feeling better. And just because you got the weight on now you're a lot healthier. Just because you got on you doesn't mean you're unhealthy. No. You know, if you take our truck driver, he was 430 pounds. When he was 300 pounds, he'd lost 130 pounds. He's probably the healthiest 300-pound person in the world. Yeah. He'd been juicing for like 50 days. So he's a lot healthier than someone who was 150 pounds. Yeah. So I kind of make sure that people should know that if they're very heavy or heavily overweight or obese, you can turn it really quickly in terms of the health. You may not be able to turn the physical appearance that quick, but you can turn the health quick.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think there's a lot of, so especially on social media, there's a lot of sort of fast track diets you can go on, a lot of the easy way to lose weight. And there's a lot of simple ways to lose weight and get healthy, but there's no sort of easy way to do it, because it has got to be.
There's no magic bullet.
No, there's got to be a lifestyle change, isn't it? Yeah.
And the reality is that, you know, I think the best way to describe it would be there'd be a third of the population that have no problem at all with their weight, and they don't have an issue. Yeah. And there's another third of the population that, you know, they go up and down, they're a little bit over, a little bit under, they sort of go up, they're a bit, you know. And then there's a third that absolutely completely struggle. And for whatever reason, and we don't know, I mean, we still don't know, there's a lot of science to be learned here and understood. And there's a lot of talk about the set point, which is effectively if you're 20 stone and you lose 5 stone, why do you go back to 20 stone almost quickly? Is that your body trying to protect you to say, hey, we're comfortable at 20 stone? You know, I think you've got to sort of stay 6 months at the new weight to reset the set point, you know? But it's a fascinating area, which there's not a lot there's a lot more for us to learn, is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to get there, and we're going to learn a lot, and we're also learning that the microbiome has a lot to do with this. Antibiotics taken when you're young as a kid have a lot to do with it. So there's all these factors that we just got to be careful. When you see someone down the street and they're heavily overweight, it doesn't mean they're just lazy. They know it. And many of them, I guarantee, have tried at least 100 times, if not more, to try and get healthier. But for whatever reason, they don't have the support. They just haven't been able to find what works.
Brilliant. Look, I'm going to start to wrap this up, but thank you for thanks for the film, because it certainly helped me, and I hope it helps other people as they go into that. So there are various places, aren't we, where you can find the film online at the minute?
Yes, Steve, you can go to rebootwithjoe.com, and I've got all 3 of my movies streaming for free there right now. Okay, cool. So I've not seen the 3rd one, so I'll probably have a look at that later on over the weekend. That's called the kids menu. That's all about what's going on with the youth of mainly in America, but it's all about young people and their choices.
So what else are you up to at the minute?
So I'm working hard with content. You know, I'm out there making a lot of juice every day. I just had a green juice before we started. I was trying to hold it for our talk. I got 2 thirsty. So I've got a big juicing day tomorrow because I'm out of juice right now. So tomorrow's a juicing day for me. I make a lot of juice every 3 days, and then I store it in bottles in the fridge. That's a good tip. People don't know you can do that. But you know, you get about 72 hours worth of juice if you cold press it, put it in the refrigerator, fill it to the top, and freeze it. Not freeze it. You can freeze it. I don't, but you're going to put it in the refrigerator so it's cold. So that's what I'm up to. I've got a few other little projects I'm working on that I don't want to sort of talk about just yet because it's still talking and they're not firm, but we're working hard to produce more content and get out there and inspire and educate and entertain as best as we can.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay. And where can people find you on social media and on the internet?
I'm at Joe the Juicer on Instagram. There's a lot of fakes out there. I don't know what's going on, but I tend to get copied a lot. So make sure you find them over the blue tick at Joe the Juicer. And on Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead on Facebook. And there's the Joe Cross community there, which is pretty strong. And we do a lot of work there.
Excellent. Look, thanks for taking the time to speak to me.
Hey, Steve, it was great, mate. And enjoy your summer over there, mate. And hope you guys can get out and find some fresh produce to juice up a storm.
Do you know what? We're having a great summer. I'm not sure if it's the fact that there's no planes in the sky or there's no cars, but it's been blue skies ever since we all went into lockdown. So it's been really, really good. You wouldn't recognise the place, Joe.
That sounds great. Well, I do love Liverpool. I've enjoyed my time there, and it's a great part of the world. So enjoy this quiet time.
I will do, mate. And look, next time you're over in Liverpool, drop us a message and we'll meet up and have a juice.
Absolutely. Juice
Excellent.
on.
Excellent. Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much. Lovely to speak to you. Thanks for that.
Thanks,
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.
Bye.